This is Lindsay's Science School. Brought to you by Craig Swap and Associates.
Hi everyone, I am Miss Lindsay and this is my science school, and this is what we're going to talk about for today. I'm going to run back to my computer and hit play really quickly and get this graphic going for you one more time so that you can see what we're talking about today. We are talking about this word right here, density. Have you ever heard of density? It's kind of a weird word, right? Sounds like dense. Something's really dense. What does that mean? That's what we're going to talk about today. So to talk about it, I want to bring in two different circles. What do you see that's different about these two different circles? Well, this one has more of these blue dots in it than this one has, right? These blue dots represent molecules inside an object or inside a gas or inside a liquid. So inside this one, we have a lot more molecules packed into the same size that we've got over here. You can sort of think of this one as like a bowling ball and this one like a beach ball that are both the same size, but that bowling ball is a lot heavier to carry than the beach ball, right? So density is how compact a substance is. Obviously, a bowling ball is a lot more compact than a beach ball is, right? And when you throw objects like this into a gas or into a liquid, they're either going to sink or they're going to float based on the density around them. So let's think about a swimming pool. Let's pretend that we're in the middle of a swimming pool here, and these are water molecules all around us. What's going to happen when I throw this bowling ball into our swimming pool? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? The bowling ball's obviously going to sink, right? Because it is more dense, or it's got those molecules more tightly compacted than the water around it. Well, what's the beach ball going to do? If you take a beach ball and you shove it down into a swimming pool, it's just going to pop right back up. The reason that it pops back up is because that air inside of the beach ball is less dense than the water around it. So today we get to do an experiment where you can play with different densities at home. Let's head on over to my science desk and we'll see Miss Mary. Miss Mary's here to help us with our science project for the day.
Fun stuff, Lindsay.
Yeah, we've got
quite a
lot
bit of
fun
ingredients.
stuff. Yes. But a lot of these ingredients I bet you have lying around your house. And if you're missing one of these ingredients, you can do it without it. You just don't do that one layer of the experiment, but it still works.
Okay.
So use whatever you've got around your house. Okay, so to start out, I've got a glass, a tall glass right there. This is the tall glass that we're going to use. Now what I've done on here is I've drawn some lines, and that's just to help Miss Mary know how much of each substance to put into the jar.
This is fancy.
Super fancy,
Yeah.
right? I just found it in
Like
my
a real
cupboard. It's
beaker.
something that my husband got at a conference somewhere. So I said, we're going to use this for science
Good.
school. That's the best part about science school, is you just use whatever you've got around your house. So what we're going to do is we're going to put different liquids that have different densities inside this tall glass and see what happens. You can use a regular drinking glass. You can use a vase. Whatever you have available around your house, as long as it's clear, it's see-through so that you can see what's going to happen.
And we're starting with
We're
honey?
starting with the honey. That's the
Okay.
very first thing we're going to put in. So you're going to dump a lot of honey into that jar until you get up to that first line, Miss Mary.
See here.
Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Work those muscles.
All the way up to the line, I can see it from back here. Okay.
If you can't get all the way up to the line, that's okay. It's just a...
I'm going to break the bear.
Okay, perfect.
Is that all right?
Yep, so
Okay.
that's our first layer of our density rainbow that we're going to be making. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pour some corn syrup on top of it. And I want you to watch what's going to happen. And if you're doing this with us at home, a trick for you is to turn the bottle on its side just a little bit and then pour it down the side. So tilt your bottle. Let me
tilt it a
tilt
little
it
bit
for
this
you.
way.
Yeah.
Oops.
Or we can have lab assistant
Our lab assistant Kevin's going to be mad if I spill any on the desk.
You on it?
How much
So
more?
if you dump it in there, it's fine. It'll just take it a little bit to separate. If you pour it in slowly like
Let it
this,
separate. Is that all right? A little more?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. So it has combined a little bit here, but if we give it just a minute, it's going to separate.
Okay.
The reason that the corn syrup is going to separate from the honey is because the honey is more dense. It has a higher density to it. It has more molecules in it. It's more tightly compacted
Well, and it
than
actually
the corn
poured
syrup.
harder too.
Yes.
It doesn't pour as quickly.
doesn't
This was
pour
a
as
little
easily.
bit quicker, and then I'm going to guess this is next.
Yep, the maple syrup is next. Now, the
Okay.
important thing about the maple syrup is you want to have 100% maple syrup. If you don't have 100% maple syrup, just skip this step. The 100% maple syrup gives it the density that we need to sit on top of the corn syrup.
Okay, I'm going to pour this carefully
yep,
too.
pour it carefully. Just pour it down the side of the glass. That's the easiest way to do it so that they don't combine. See how it's just sitting on top of that corn syrup layer? We have the honey at the bottom. That's the golden color that you see. And then the corn syrup is that clear color. And now the maple syrup on top of it is the brown color. Do you see how
my
they're
gosh.
totally separate?
Ooh, I got some on my finger.
Oh, gotta lick that off. Okay, so the next thing we're going to put in is our milk. So we've got a little bit of milk here. Same thing, you're going to want to pour very carefully down the side of the jar. And if you don't, it's fine. It'll just take it a second to separate. See how the milk is landing on top of the maple syrup? And it's making its own little layer. This is because each layer that we're putting in has a smaller density than the layer we did before.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
A little too much.
So that's okay. That's all right. These are just sort of rough estimates. On top of the milk, we're going to put some dish soap. That's
Pretty
our
blue.
right here. Yep.
And that's thicker than milk, but
But let's see what happens. Now pour it really carefully. This one might combine for a second, and then it's going to separate. Do you see how it's sitting on top of the milk? Isn't that cool? Again, that's because it has a lower density than the milk.
a little bit more.
And it'll separate as we let it sit for a little bit. That's why I say, you know, if you've got a little brother or a little sister that's helping you with this and they just dump something in, it's okay. It's not ruined. It will separate. You'll just have to give yourself a few minutes for it to settle. So we've even got a little bit of milk in our soap layer, but that's okay because those milk molecules are more dense than the soap, and so they are going to settle down until they get to the density layer that matches them. So that will eventually settle out. Next thing we're going to do is some water.
Okay.
But since we're making a rainbow, we're going to color this water.
Okay.
We're going to put some green food coloring in it. Yep, so just put several drops. I put 2 or 3 in when I tried this at home, made it really dark green.
Okay.
Now this is the step when you have to be really careful. Maybe let mom or dad help you with this step, because if you just dump the water in on top of that soap, what happens with water and soap? It makes bubbles, right?
Yes.
So we're not going to want bubbles with this. So you have to pour the water very, very slowly.
I'll use the spoon.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, maybe not. Okay.
This is where we might make a little bit of a mess. We'll see.
Oh, yep.
Is it going to
What do you
make a
think,
mess?
Kevin?
Ooh, Kevin's got paper towels. Lab assistant Kevin to the rescue with the paper
I
towels.
will try to use the spoon.
Yeah, that's a
There
good
we
idea.
go.
Let's use the spoon.
But my hands shake. Okay. My right hand shakes. It's not because I'm nervous.
Or maybe you are. I mean,
You know
science
that, Kevin,
can
don't
make
you?
people
You know
nervous.
about that handshake thing?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I know all about the shaky hand thing.
Yeah. Well,
Got it from my daddy.
I
Did
got
you?
I
Yes, I
did
did.
too. I thought it was because I damaged nerves from volleyball, hitting the ball so hard back in the day. But
Okay,
it's
let's
not.
see if that's enough,
Is that
Miss
enough?
Mary. Yeah, so just tilt it back up.
Slowly.
Do you see how it's sitting on top of that soap layer?
Nice.
And again, we're
Sorry
seeing
about
some
that.
of our layers
good.
combine a little bit. The milk and the soap have combined a little bit. The water and the soap are combining a
they
little
will?
bit. But as it sits there for a few minutes, they're going to separate once again.
Nice.
Okay, so on top of this, we want to do our vegetable oil, which is
Okay.
right there. And vegetable oil already has sort of a yellowish color, so we're not going to color the vegetable oil. We're just going to pour it in as it is.
Thicker too, isn't it?
What's that?
Shoot,
Is it dripping as well?
I just got it.
We're going to go through a lot of paper towels today.
I got a lot of paper towels.
Lab assistant
I'm
Kevin
messy.
is prepared.
I'm a messy girl.
Hey, science is messy, but it's
Science
fun.
is messy. So see how the vegetable oil is sitting on top of our
That's a
water?
good separation,
yeah,
isn't
it's a
it? Yeah,
great
the line there.
separation
That's
because
cool.
those densities are very different.
Okay.
Okay, on top of the vegetable oil, we are going to add rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is clear, so we want to color it since we're making our rainbow here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to use the yellow food dye, but if you use a lot of yellow food dye, it looks orange. So we're going to use a lot. Just dump it in there, make it orange.
Okay. Good squirt.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, there's some orange for us.
All right, and the spoon.
Yep, let's use the spoon again to put it in to the cup since it doesn't
You were able to
pour.
find rubbing alcohol in the store?
I already had some, thankfully, because there are some things in the store that are a little bit hard to find right now.
Okay, let's see.
See if it'll pour in.
Thank you, Kevin.
You got it.
Or am I pouring too fast?
That's okay. They'll separate out. It'll just take a few minutes. Okay, good. I think that's probably plenty right
Okay.
there. Yeah, okay. So see how they're separating out? So you've got that orange on top of the yellow
That looks
now.
so cool.
Isn't that so fun? And then for our final layer, we're going to do some of the lamp oil that we used for our tornado experiment last
Okay.
week.
Yeah, that's it. It's not very expensive, is it? The lamp oil?
No, I bought that on Amazon, and I think that big old bottle was $8 or $9 or something like that. And you can use it for multiple experiments, as
Yeah.
we've seen. Okay, so try pouring that in slowly, and that's the one that's going to sit on the very top.
And why is this oil different than the other oils?
It has, its density is less than the other ones. Its molecules aren't as tightly compacted together as vegetable oil and rubbing alcohol.
runs a little thinner.
And that's why
Yeah.
it sits on the top. So look at that. Look how we made a little rainbow out of all these things that you can find around your house. Isn't that cool?
That is so great.
Now we're gonna have some real fun. What I've done, Mary, in this Tupperware right here, I've just gathered a bunch of random items that have different densities from around my house.
Okay.
So let's start with, I think I have a screw in there. What do you kiddos think with a screw? Do you think it's gonna sink to the bottom or do you think it's gonna float to the top? What do you think, Mary?
It's pretty heavy.
It's pretty
I
heavy.
think it's like the bowling ball.
Pretty dense.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Let's drop it in there. Let's see how far down it goes.
I'll do it towards the front.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Can
All
you
the
see
way
that? It
down.
went all
Did you
the way
follow it?
down to the honey. Can you see that there? How it's all the way at the bottom? Okay, so that's not that surprising, right? Like you said, the screw is really heavy, and so that makes sense. The next thing we're going to use is a popcorn kernel. Do you see a
I see
popcorn
it in
kernel
there?
in there?
I do.
Right there. Okay. So what do you think the popcorn kernel's going to do?
It's tiny.
Yep, it's
now
tiny.
my fingernails are yellow.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Oh,
It's going down. And here's another trick. If you can't find it, you can use a flashlight.
good idea.
And you can shine the flashlight in there to find it. It might be stuck in our milk layer. I don't
You
see
think
it down
so?
here in the syrup.
let's see if we can put.
Ooh,
will
that's a
that
good
help a little
idea.
bit?
Let's see.
Farther over and
This way.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, you know what? I think it got stuck in the milk layer.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
That is.
How can something like that drop into water and not sink all the way down and not rise all the way to the top?
It just stopped.
It just stops in the middle. How often do you hear about something like that?
Huh.
Not very often. But the density is of the popcorn kernel is about the same as the density of the milk. So it dropped down to the milk layer and stopped.
stayed.
Yeah,
Huh.
because the layers below that are more dense. Their molecules are tightly packed together, and so it can't sink through those
That is
layers.
so cool.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
how about we do a die?
Okay.
Yep. Here's our dice.
A lucky
You've
die.
seen dice, you know, when you play games like Monopoly or something. Okay, drop that in there and let's see how
Doesn't
far
matter
down.
which number, does it?
It doesn't matter which number. No,
I'll
let's
slide it
drop
towards
it
the
in.
front.
Yeah, we're going to slide it toward the front so that you
What
guys
if it
can
knocks
see.
the?
Whoa, look at that.
Oh, how is it stopping?
I know, isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
It sinks down to the corn syrup layer and it stops. Why is that?
Wait, so it went through the regular syrup, the maple
Yep,
syrup,
it
but
did.
it's stopping in the corn syrup.
Yeah, because the honey is more dense than the molecules inside that dice.
That is so cool.
Isn't that awesome how
Yeah.
it's just floating there? Okay, next thing we're going to do, let's do a cherry tomato.
Okay.
That's those little tiny baby tomatoes. Mary's got
The
one
ones
right
that
there.
I hate.
That's true.
I
Mary
do not
doesn't like tomatoes.
I want to like them, and I just can't.
I love tomatoes. Okay, let's drop it in
Okay.
and see where it goes.
Oh,
There it goes.
see,
Can
it's
you see
lighter.
it?
It seems lighter, and it's.
It's
There
stuck,
it
if you can
is.
see it, it's in the middle of the dish soap and water
Can
layer.
see it right there.
So we know that the density or the how
There it is,
tightly
yeah.
compacted the molecules are inside that tomato is about the
There it
same
is.
as the dish soap.
Yeah.
Isn't that
very
cool? It's just floating in there. Okay,
awesome.
next thing to play with. Let's play with some beads.
Okay.
Throw some beads in there.
Let's see. How many?
It doesn't matter.
Are they the same?
They're all the same, yeah.
Okay.
So they'll all go to about the same
But they're all
level.
different colors?
They are all different colors, so we can throw a bunch in there and see where they
Try
land.
To do it in the front so we can see where they go.
Okay, so how far down did they go? They're about right there. Do you see them? They're in the middle of our water layer, right there, in the middle of the green layer. So they're sitting on top of the dish soap, just like the...
Oh, there, yeah.
Yep, they're right there, just like the cherry tomato.
A little bit lighter,
a
though,
little
right?
bit lighter
Yeah.
than the cherry tomato, or a less dense,
Right.
actually. Yeah. So they're sitting there in the water layer. Okay, next thing we're going to try is a soda cap. Now, if you just throw the soda cap in there, it's going to float on the top,
Right.
because it catches the air inside it. But what we want to do is we want to push it down so we can really see what the density is. Make sure this might get your
edge.
fingers a little bit messy with that oil. Oh, do you see
There it
that?
goes.
You see how it's just floating right there? So it is about the same density as the rubbing alcohol. Isn't that cool how it's just floating in there like
I
that?
mean, it's full of the lamp oil, but
Yep.
it's not heavy, it's not dense enough.
right,
to
to
get
go all the way
below it.
down.
So what if you push
Ooh.
it down a little
You
bit?
push it a little bit.
See, let's see
see
what
if it comes
happens.
back
Push it
up.
down. Let's see what happens.
It does bounce.
Yep.
Look at that. It comes
It's
back
just
up.
like a beach ball. When you
Yeah.
push a beach ball down in water, it's going to rise back up to get it back up to the density it wants to be at.
That is so cool.
Okay, last thing we're going to try is the ping pong ball.
Okay.
Yep. What do you think is going to happen with the ping pong ball?
It's like a beach ball, isn't it?
It is like a beach
'Cause
ball.
it's full of air.
Yep. Put it in there. Even shove it down if you want.
We'll do that.
Yeah. Push it down. See
Pops
how
back
it doesn't want to go down?
Pops back up just like a beach ball.
Yep. That's because the air inside that ping pong ball is less dense than all of the layers we've done in there. So it's going to sit right on the top.
Look at all of those things.
Yeah.
in
See how
different
they're just floating in
layers.
there? Isn't that awesome? So much fun.
Okay.
So when
and the
you're
dye
in it-
finally fell down.
It did. It fell into our honey layer.
Right.
So its density is probably somewhere in between the honey and the
Yeah.
corn syrup.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so a fun experiment that you can do at home to learn about density and to figure out which things have a higher density and a lower density than these various liquids that
Okay,
we've
what
done.
about questions?
Yeah,
if you
let's
have
do
any
some
questions,
questions.
and you're on our Facebook Live, ask the questions right now. There's a little bit
Yep.
of a delay, so we might get your question in a minute or so.
Yeah.
But I'm going to check a few. We're watching in Cache Valley,
Okay,
Science Kids page.
great. We are so happy
Bentley
to have
says
all of you.
hello. Lab assistant should have pressed play for you, Miss Lindsay.
Yeah, lab assistant Kevin.
My husband came home and saw a kickball in the front yard, so he kicked it. Turns out it wasn't a kickball.
Oh.
It was a bowling ball.
Oh, ouch.
That would hurt your foot.
That would. Why?
A density
Because
experiment.
it's dense. Yes, a bowling ball is much more dense than a kickball, and that's why it hurts your toe when you kick it.
Okay. Love Science School.
Good.
Allie,
I'm
age
so
9.
glad that so many
This
people
is
are
cool.
enjoying science school.
Wow, I can lend you guys a funnel. That would work.
Oh, we should have done a
Yeah.
funnel.
Good job, Daniel.
See,
So
you guys are
cool.
so
Hannah,
smart.
9 years old. The soap and milk look like a hot tub
Oh,
until it separated.
but it did.
Yeah,
it was
it
kind of
did.
like frothy
Yeah.
for a little bit, and then it separated out.
Okay, Kenny says if you had a marble, would that float?
It would depend on the density. I don't think it would, because a marble is very dense. And so I would
Glass.
assume
Yeah.
that it would sink all the way to the bottom, or at least go down to those lower layers, depending on the density of that marble. But no, a marble's not going to float, because a marble is not hollow inside. It's
Right.
solid throughout. And so its density is going to be a little bit higher. So my guess
might
is that it would be
plunk to the
down here
bottom.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, Erin says this is great, and Erin's a teacher. And Holly says,
Good.
I love this for my kids. Science today, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Lots of people watching.
Good. I'm
What are
so
other
glad.
things you can use?
You can use anything around your house. As long as you don't care if it gets wet, you can try it out in this experiment. I mean, I probably wouldn't take like a doll that's got hair or something, because the hair is going to get ruined. But if you've got something that it'll be fine if it gets wet, maybe you take like your little army men guys or something like that, and drop them in there.
Yeah.
You can play with whatever you've got around your house that mom or dad say that you can use.
Okay, Sarah says my 8-year-old loves the show. Amy is from Ogden, says it's cool. Holly says, so when you make a vinaigrette
Yes.
at home and it emulsifies, how long does it take to separate back?
Not long. It usually just takes a few minutes. So a vinaigrette is made with oil and vinegar, and those have two different densities. The oil has, its density is less than the vinegar. The vinegar has a higher density. And so when you mix those together, then they go together for just a few minutes. But as soon as you set that dressing down, it starts to separate, and the oil comes up above the vinegar. And that's why, because the density of the oil is less than the density of the vinegar. So when you use a vinaigrette, you need to make sure you shake it up first. Otherwise, you're just going to get oil on your salad. And
Or
not the
if
oil
you have
and
a
vinegar.
binding agent, like honey mustard, if you
Yes.
have a mustard or a mayo in it, that will help that'll keep it from separating quickly.
Oh, okay. Look
If you
at
emulsify it really good.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Okay,
great.
Tim says it's his son's birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday! That's fantastic.
Tabby, age 7, from Southland Elementary, wants to know how you'll get everything out of there, especially out of the honey.
Yeah, I'm actually going to use a strainer. I've got a strainer, and I just take it over to the sink and I dump the whole thing into the strainer, and then the strainer catches all of the objects. But you're right, the things that are down in the honey, they're pretty stuck. And so you got to really work at getting those out.
Here's
Oh,
the
yep, this
strainer.
is the strainer right there. There's the strainer.
Easy
Lab
enough.
assistant Kevin brought it.
Easy enough.
Yep, so that's what I'm going to throw in the sink right after
Okay,
this.
Amber says, will you do the magic milk experiment?
The magic
I don't
milk?
know what that
I don't
one
know what
is.
that is either, but I
Yeah.
will find out, and we can do that for a future episode. I'm always looking for good science ideas.
And do you have all the ingredients online where
I
people
do.
can look at all of
You
them?
can go to my
Okay.
Facebook page. I've posted a picture of the density rainbow that my 11-year-old son and I made yesterday at home. And in the comments of that, I've posted all the ingredients
good.
that you need. And again, if you're missing one of them, maybe you don't have rubbing alcohol, just skip that step. It doesn't matter. You're still able to do a lot of this and see where different objects fall as far as their densities
Okay,
concerned.
Marcia says, shake it all up. And how long would it take for them to
It
separate?
would probably take, I would guess, 4 to 5 minutes for it to separate.
That
But it
long?
would, yeah.
Okay.
Do you see how pretty it is now
It
that
is
it's
so
just
cool.
been sitting there for a while?
It
I
did
love
separate
it.
the layers a little
Yep,
bit more.
it did. I think we've got
Camden
maybe
wants to
one
know
more
if you-
question.
What would happen if you flipped the bottle upside down and kept the objects inside? It
If-
would take a
yep,
while.
it would take a while. If we had a
They would
lid
all
for this,
switch.
yep, we could do this, and it would eventually end up so that the red's on top again. It comes all the way through, and that honey would sink all the way to the bottom. So it would look the exact same. It would just take a few minutes for everything to separate out.
Okay, and the birds want to know that they missed the beginning. Where can they watch the whole replay?
The whole replay is on KUTV.com. You can go there. There's a page called Lindsay Science School, and you can see this whole episode episode, and you can also see previous episodes. So if there's something that you or your child have really been interested in, we did one on earthquakes. You can go back and watch that one if you missed it, where we talk about the different types of earthquakes and the kinds that we have here across the Wasatch Front. We played with food for that episode, so that was a lot of fun.
Okay, Emily asked, why does the milk float? I know we're almost out of time, but
It's just less dense than the syrup. So the syrup is underneath it. And so because of that, it basically just sits on top of the syrup, because this layer, the milk layer, is less dense than this one.
and
So it sits on top of it.
Than the milk.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah. So they want to float up or sink down to the density layer where they belong.
Right.
And that's why it's separated out.
And even Kelly says adults can learn new science lessons.
Absolutely.
Very cool. I'm glad adults are joining us
Absolutely.
and share with kids.
Yeah.
And again, it'll be on KUTV.com and the list of ingredients on your Facebook page.
Yep, on my Facebook page. So I hope you do this at home. It will kill some time if you are trying to, make these long days go a little bit faster. This is something fun you can do with the kids.
We'll send lab
this
assistant
afternoon.
Kevin over to clean up after your...
Oh, perfect. I'm sure he would appreciate that. He loves nothing more than to clean up. Okay, thank you so much, Miss Mary, for
It was
joining
fun.
me. You did such a great
Letting
job.
me
You
make a
were
mess.
such a great assistant. Let me show you what you need for Thursday's class. Now, on Thursday, we're going to be talking about different precipitation types. You know about rain, you know about snow, but there might be a few precipitation types that you don't know about. We're doing 2 experiments. For experiment 1, you need 2 bowls. One of those bowls needs to be a larger bowl. The other one can be smaller. You need ice cubes, you need salt, you need a glass, a clear glass. You can use the same one that we're using for the density experiment today, and you need some water. For experiment number 2, you need a 2-liter bottle, scissors, a sharp knife, so this is one that parents will have to help with, masking tape, a ruler, and some water. So we're gonna have fun learning about different types of precipitation Thursday, 9:30 a.m. on the KUTV Facebook page, also KUTV.com, and we will see you then. Make sure you're not tardy.